Good day, everybody. I hope you're all well. Let's get started. My name is Ludolf. I'm the founder of the Fortia Group. Every month we do a different webinar on an interesting topic. Last month was all about whether 2022 was the right time to sell an e-commerce business, particularly an Amazon FBA business. And today we're focused on discussing successful exits with 10 sellers, all Amazon FBA sellers. So we'll kick off. The first thing I want to do is give you an overview of today's webinar. I'll very briefly, just for 2 minutes, give you an overview of the Fortia Group, particularly for those that haven't logged on before. We then have 10 seller stories. We have slides submitted by all the sellers, and the format will be sort of a quick fire interview where we'll try and get through as much content as possible in as short a time as possible. So we'll have 10 really interesting interviews with sellers that have sold to 9 different aggregators in the States, Europe, and APAC. So really interesting. Then we'll go to a panel discussion. We have panelists coming, dialing in from 4 different aggregators, where we'll discuss sort of the key observations from all those seller stories, and you can ask them questions direct. And then we'll give you a heads up on our next webinar, which is all about demystifying LOIs. We'll have both law firms and legal counsels from aggregators talking about the key components of LOIs and sort of the pros and cons and the key areas for debate. From a housekeeping perspective, please submit any questions you have throughout. Use the Q&A functionality on Zoom. Please do not submit them via chat. It's just so much easier to track questions via the Q&A button. And a copy of this deck and a recording, like all our webinars, will be made available to you. We'll email it to you, and it'll also be available on our website. Okay, so let's jump in. So very quickly, the Fortia Group. I just want to start by showing you some stats from a survey we did last year. We surveyed 32 sellers, and 75% of those said if they were going to sell their business again, that they would hire an advisor. I think that's quite a telling statistic, that the significant majority of sellers appreciated either the advice they got, or looking back, they would have actually liked an advisor to hold their hand during the exit process. Jumping in a bit more detail, why did those sellers who had an advisor, what were the benefits that they saw? First is advisors are able to maximize valuation. There's stats around this. The University of Alabama did a study showing that advisors can get up to 25% higher valuation. Again, sticker price isn't always the most important thing. It's about, the devil's in the detail in terms of terms. Avoid common mistakes and obstacles. I started doing investment banking in May 2000, so I have 22 years of corporate finance experience, which can hopefully help you avoid obvious mistakes and obstacles as a client. And we have great distribution. Firms like Fortia have great distribution, right? We know all the aggregators. Actually, today there's 91 Amazon aggregators and over 25 DTC aggregators in our database. And of course, there's PE firms, corporates, individuals, family offices, which can be relevant depending on the type of business you're bringing to market. So hopefully that's helpful context as to why people hire advisors. So what do we do? Our exclusive focus is helping e-commerce entrepreneurs like yourselves on their exits. Can be Amazon FBAs or the full spectrum of e-commerce, including DTC entrepreneurs. I used to work at Morgan Stanley, who are widely regarded as one of the best M&A firms worldwide. And we are looking to build a Morgan Stanley for e-commerce. That's the big vision of the Fortia Group. So we're bringing an intense, bespoke investment banking level standard of service to our deals. We don't just help you get an LOI and then wait for a check. We hold your hand through the whole due diligence process, the whole negotiation process. So specifically, what do we do? There's 3 things that we do. First of all, a value estimate, both what the value of your business could be today, but also in the future. If today you didn't want to exit, how could it look like at the end of 2022 or 2023? We work with a lot of clients that don't want to sell in 30 days, that want to sell in 2023 or 2024. And we partner with them on their journey to make sure that they're as exit ready as possible. And If that's of interest to you, please reach out. And then finally, obviously, we help clients when they're ready to go to market. We have a 7-step investment banking type exit process, which includes things like a 50-page info memorandum, a full data room, so that you're prepared when you want to go to buyers. Okay, so we're going to start the first of the quickfire interviews. I am hoping that Ashley has dialed in. Ashley, are you there? I don't think Ashley has dialed in yet. Ashley is from ATB Global. So we will have to be flexible. We will skip straight to number 2 and we'll chase Ashley for when he's available. Shirley, are you there, please?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, hi.
Hi, Shirley. First of all, I'd like to thank you so much, Shirley, for dialing in all the way and live from Hong Kong. It's a ridiculously late hour, so we really appreciate you dialing in at this time.
No worries. Well, glad to be here.
Please, could we start by introducing yourself and your brand?
Sure. So my name is Shirley. So I started the brand Bliss and Baby back in 2018. So when I started the brand, actually, I was pregnant with a baby, and I had a pretty difficult and high-risk pregnancy. So that left me with no option but to quit my corporate job and to be back down for the rest of my pregnancy. Then it was very difficult. So I decided to turn that into an opportunity to start my own business. In Amazon FBA, because it's something that I could manage from the comfort of my own bed, basically. So and then I basically almost literally gave birth to the business and the baby almost at the same time, because on my way to the hospital to give birth to the baby, actually, I was placing my first inventory order with my supplier. So it was quite intense. And I specialize in the niche baby products that I design myself. So yeah, that's how it started. Brilliant.
Love it. Great story.
Thank you.
So your net margins were fantastic, over 30%. What's the secret to having such high net margins? What were some of the, please give some color around that. How did you manage to have such good margins?
I think first of all, because fortunately I speak Mandarin and also I can read Chinese. So basically I have access to not just Alibaba, but also the 1668, the Chinese website where you can place orders with the Chinese supplier in Chinese. When you get prices from the Chinese website compared to Alibaba, the price is, even from the same manufacturer, you get completely different prices. It's like quite a lot cheaper, I would say. So fortunately, I know the language, so they know that I can ask around, so they can't really give me a higher price. So that's why I think my margin is lower. Plus, I think I have pretty good freight forwarders also. They are international, but mainly based in Chinese companies, so they were a little bit cheaper than the international, the big guys, I would say.
And given you're based in Hong Kong, do you regularly visit your suppliers?
To be very honest with you, I have never visited them, to be 100% honest. So I hired, because I was having this difficult pregnancy, so I couldn't move basically. And then after I gave it to my daughter, I was full-time mom, so I was managing this part-time. I was squeezing time out as much as I could just to manage the business, but it was so difficult. So that's why I was breastfeeding my baby, so I couldn't be away from Hong Kong. So that's why I hired inspection companies to do all those things for me, to inspect the factories, to talk to them. So I never really visited them, to be very honest.
Right. Surprising, but whatever you did, but clearly worked. Okay, moving on. So we've asked all of the speakers today, if you started again, what would you do differently to increase valuation? And as a reminder to the audience, these slides will be sent to you and the recording will be sent to you. But the question I wanted to ask, Shirley, having read this, was why do you think so many e-commerce entrepreneurs do PPC themselves rather than outsource it?
To be honest, I think people try to, but they think that it's something that they can manage maybe, and also maybe they don't know that there's some experts out there that can manage it for them. Of course, the price you have to pay, in the beginning, it could be a few thousand US dollars or something like that. At least that's the ones that I talk to. But I think the return is going to be definitely worth it. So in the beginning, I just thought, because it was quite a small business to begin with, so I've been managing that myself. But later on, in hindsight, I definitely should have outsourced it and hired someone professional to do it. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So let's look at the performance of the brand since your exit to Sellerx. First of all, thank you to you and Sellerx for actually submitting a chart with performance. And one of the reasons we're doing this type of webinar today is to show some transparency that the aggregators have serious capabilities to improve the performance of all these brands post acquisition. So it's really helpful to see some numbers on the page. So thank you for that. It looks like their PPC experts at Sellerx made immediate impact.
That's true. That's true. I think the listing and also the PPC optimization, like increased conversion by 35%. That's amazing. Also, the in-stock rates has improved from 80 to 100%. So these are amazing results. Yeah.
And the revenue increased by 40%. What are the sort of the 2 or 3 key drivers of that, if you were to try and surmise them?
I think it's mainly the optimization, because to be honest, when I was managing my brand, I just didn't really have enough time to like, if I didn't even have like a proper like A+ content page at the time. So it might surprise you, but I just I was a full-time mom, so I didn't really have time for that. So I think like it's something that they could do quite quickly, like once they acquired my my account. So of course the A+ content also, like they did the videos. So I had only a few videos that were not 100% like perfect for my products, but then they did really professional, good ones, plus also they invest a lot more money on the PPC, also the brand advertising, like video advertising as well. So I think that because my products are the type of product that are visually appealing. So if the more people see them, the more people will be interested in buying them. So that's why I think all those like visual things such as A+ content and also hiring models to do things, and the videos, they helped a lot.
Yeah, very good. Well, congrats on the performance, and I'm sure there's an earnout here for you, and I hope you get your earnout payment. So to finish the last section, we asked all the sellers what were their top 3 pieces of advice for the sellers in the audience who are exploring or thinking about an exit in due course. So the first question I have here for you is, it's great to see a focus on net profits, net margin. In fact, the first speaker that was due to speak first said the same thing. So you clearly had a great high net margin. What were some of the things did you have a good trajectory of margins coming into the exit? Did it improve over time as you got to your exit?
It did definitely improve, because first of all, the prices of my materials, so my goods decreased because I was ordering like in bigger and bigger volumes, so I would get discount from my manufacturers. And also at the same time, because I have got like really good organic ranking already on Amazon for all of my products, so that's why I was spending like less and less money on PPC. So they were being like, and also like a few online magazines just featured my products as well. So there was like some external traffic as well, like leading to my products. So that's why less PPC, like less expenses, and also like less cost for the product. So that's why the margin increased. Yeah.
Okay, very good. And you talk about getting products patented as early as possible. What any color there? Any experiences, good or bad?
Oh yeah, horrible, like nightmare, basically. Because actually I designed all my own products, and 2 of my products became the best sellers on Amazon and dominated the whole category, which was like really great. However, my supplier that I trusted saw that as a good opportunity. So what they did was they copied my product completely and then launch it on Amazon and sell it at half the price to compete with me directly. And plus they even take out my products and then after inspection to put stain on my product, on like almost half of the products, like 1,000 pieces, to jeopardize my accounts, jeopardize my brand, basically. So that's why in the beginning it was like, oh, a nightmare. But then that was a blessing in disguise, because that pushed me to get all my products that I designed myself patented, and I could just like kick them off Amazon, kick them off any marketplace just with a few clicks.
Excellent. Shirley, we've run out of time, but thank you for squashing in so much interesting information to a short period of time, and thank you for staying awake so late. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and sleep well.
Thank you. See you. Take care.
Take care. As a reminder to the audience, please submit questions via the Q&A button, not the chat. Thank you. Okay. Now, do we have the first speaker on? Ashley. Ashley, are you there?
Yes.
Ah.
Hi, I'm here.
Great.
Apologies about that. Hi,
No
everyone.
problem. Great to connect. Start actually by introducing yourself and your brands.
Yes, so I'm Ashley Thompson. I'm from London, UK. Started selling on Amazon in 2014. We have about 15 brands in total, spread across multiple categories. We do everything from beauty, supplements to men's grooming, home and kitchen's a big one for us, sports and outdoors, and arts and crafts. So yeah, a very diverse portfolio. You can see some of the brands that we've got up there. The Lakers, unfortunately, is not one of them. But the bottle that LeBron James is holding is our bottle, which is why it was in there. And that was free kind of promotion. He just liked our bottle, which was great. Yep, so that's a bit of a background, I guess, about the
well, look,
brands.
huge congratulations for building such a big business, predominantly on Amazon. It's fantastic to see and very unique. How many people did you employ before you finished?
180 is what we scaled up to.
Okay. And did you use revenue-based financing along the way to help fund your growth?
Sorry, could you repeat that again, please?
Yeah. Did you use revenue-based funding to help finance your growth along the way?
Is in like outside loans and things like that and partnerships?
Yeah, like Clearbank or Shopify Capital or those types of solutions?
No, we didn't actually. I did use a lot of finance, but it was more private relationships that I had through my network. One of the keys that we actually did was we partnered with a factory, which was probably had the most significant impact on the growth trajectory that we did have. So that was something that we did. It was quite unique, and I think that if anyone gets that opportunity, I'd recommend that you take it. It's good.
And was that for one of the 20 brands or a few of the brands?
Just one, yeah.
Okay, interesting. And why did you choose Branded to partner with?
I chose Branded because honestly, I think there was a really good cultural fit. I think I kind of, as a seller, I was very confident in my ability to continue to grow and produce. And so I wanted to feel like I was in a partnership with somebody as opposed to kind of like selling my brand, let's say. And so I think that was the unique offering that Branded, the Branded value proposition was to partner. And I had a few conversations with the team that they had there. And I think they have, Pierre Boignon is the platform CEO that has a lot of operational expertise managing Lazada, which was a multi-billion-dollar, e-commerce company. And then Michael Ronan was another person, worked at Goldman as the president, and he had a lot of merger and acquisition experience. So it was really the operational expertise, the feel of the partnership, and the fact that we were partners rather than selling.
Yeah, given a lot of the folks on the call today are selling more individual brands for a certain valuation. Given you have such a big portfolio and huge revenue number, do you think you had a much higher valuation multiple because it was a more substantial play?
I think it'd be fair to say that the valuation that I got was probably favorable, compared to, let's say, a small standalone brand that came in. I think I was very much able to bring a bit of a platform, which was interesting for Branded because we had a team of 180 people that had a lot of experience. So I would say yes, I think there was a little bit of a premium for that.
And did you have a separate seller account for each of your 20 brands?
That's a good question. We actually, not for every single brand, but for every single big brand we did. So I'm just going to move this a bit wider.
Thank you.
Yeah, apologies for that. So we had around, I would say, 6 main accounts that we operated, and yeah, they were mostly done from different accounts for different brands. Okay. If it was a small brand, then we might consolidate a few small brands together in one account. Okay,
understood. Okay, so let's move on to the second question. If you started again, what would you do differently to increase valuation? Great to see you also talk about margin like our first speaker, but maybe could you expand on that, please?
Yes, I just think that, with Amazon, like any other business, it's always getting more and more competitive. any opportunity, right, it goes from, starts off as a blue ocean and it gets more and more competitive. So I think the margin is something that I overlooked personally. I think that, having very high margin targets for the products that you're going after, and also, which kind of goes into the second point, is actually thinking about what you can do to differentiate your products and have unique IP around it so that you can command a higher margin is really important. I think a lot of sellers don't probably know what the true margin is after all of the costs that come in, but it's always usually lower than what people assume.
We see that all the time. Entrepreneurs always overestimate what their margin is. It's interesting you have such a big focus on the word brand. A gentleman from Berlin Brands Group on our last webinar, said that every aggregator in their title, in their name, has the word brand, whether it's branded or Berlin Brands Group, etc. So brand is important for a brand and the aggregators. It's easy to overlook, and a lot of people just build products or SKUs or ASINs, but ultimately buyers want brands with longevity, right? And that can be omni-channel.
Yes, exactly, and that leads nicely into the third point there, which is I think when I got into it originally, we were kind of focused on brand, but my concept of a brand is very different to what it is now. I think it's actually much more about really about the customer and building a bit of a community around your products. And I think some of the best brands that I've seen are able to do product development from within the customer community itself, as opposed to demand driven based on data online, which is good. But I think like you said, more of a focus on community and also retail to really go deeper with the products.
Yeah, very good. Okay, moving on to the performance, excuse me. So clearly you've got a lot of brands going here, so it's hard to sort of focus on one number, but the question is, what were the key ways branded, key levers branded used to improve the EBITDA margin? What were the 2 to 3 key things?
Yes, I think they really did improve our operations and the visibility into margin, and on a weekly basis, like for example, specifically what you're spending on PPC down on a granular level on one product on a weekly basis. So we had we're able to see very clearly week on week what kind of the impact is having, and that's something that there isn't really a lot of tools that give you that visibility in the marketplace. So I think that was really key, to get a great dashboard and just have a team of relentless people, tenacious people that are kind of like constantly trying to grow that brand. So that was definitely one of the ways. And I think just in general, the systems was a big upgrade to the systems and the processes I think that we have from before. So that, in addition to having specialist support areas such as design for product development, like now we have a design team that we can plug into. We have like a tech team we can plug into. So that really helps, I think, allow the people that are in the company to focus on what they do best, which is the product and selling.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, 2 more questions as we look ahead. Your advice for future sellers, Ashley. First, I really like the second comment, because one of my main pieces of advice is fail to prepare to fail. Why do you think a lot of entrepreneurs just sort of rush into doing an exit? Why don't they take more time to plan them? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that, as sellers, most of us, when we start off, we probably don't think about an exit, or at least I didn't so much. And it kind of, we get to the point where, other people are doing it. And then all of a sudden, maybe the brand starts to go a bit downhill and it says, hey, this isn't looking as good anymore. Now's maybe a good time to sell. Right. But the trouble is when you're going to pitch that to anyone that's going to buy, they're going to see exactly the same thing that you see. And they're going to say, hey, this brand is starting to decline. And that all of a sudden is not going to command a premium multiple. It's not going to be as attractive. So I think it's counterintuitive, but I think it's really important for people to be able to actually, be willing to sell as the brand is still growing, because the person that buys is going to need to actually see potential in the brand go forward. Yeah. And that was something like, even myself, I was kind of torn, right? Do I sell now? Because I saw a huge potential future. I could just do this myself, maybe. But no, I think it was, it was just like really, very glad that we did. And it was a great decision. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, as an advisor, it's great to see such a big seller saying it's good to engage an advisor. Even FTSE 100 companies in the UK where you are, or Fortune 500 in the States, the very biggest companies on Wall Street all hire advisors when they're doing exits. So it still baffles me why some people think they can do it all on their own. I mean, I wouldn't sell my house on my own. So why do people go direct on their own? But it's good to see that you value a good advice.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to mention that, and that was the point that you highlighted. So that was absolutely critical to doing a deal, and doing a good deal was having finance team, legal, and someone there like an advisor, broker that was helping us with that, facilitate the conversations. This really takes a lot more time than what most people think to go through all the due diligence and the questions. And so if you're able to have great people that can support you in the back end, it allows you to focus on growing the front end and operations still, which is important.
Ashley, thanks so much for dialing in. Appreciate you're very busy there at a conference, but we really valued your thoughts.
Yeah, no problem. Great to connect. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Excellent. Apologies about the background noise there, folks, but Ashley kindly took some time out from a conference where he's also speaking, I think. So it was great to squeeze him in. Okay, so let's get back on track to speaker number 3. Ludolf, are you there, please?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear and see you.
Yes. See me now, yes.
Yes, welcome. Please introduce yourself and your brand.
Yeah, so I'm Ludolf. I'm from the Netherlands and founded Gadgy in 2015 together with my business partner. Basically started out as a wholesale company, but we quickly found out that Amazon and what we have here is bol.com, which is a local marketplace, was providing a much better opportunity. So I'd say around 2018, we decided to delete all the wholesale business because it was kind of interfering with our e-commerce business. And from then on, we just focused on the platform. As I said, Amazon and bol.com.
Very good. Well, look, congratulations on building such a large business as well.
Thank you.
Sizable revenue. Why did you choose dwarfs?
For multiple reasons. I think one of the big ones was also that we didn't do this alone. We built this business with a team of people that were put a lot of effort in this. Stuck with us for several years. And we just wanted them to be able to stick together, and also, I didn't want to stop either. So I was kind of looking for an aggregator that could give us the opportunity just to continue grow our business with the support of the aggregator, and continue working with the team we have in place. And Dwarfs was the company that could do that for us.
Okay, great. So in terms of your advice to increase valuation, it's interesting, you're the third seller in a row that's mentioned margins. I assume you mean net margins as opposed to gross margins. Remind us, your margins were over 20%. Did you have a good trajectory as you were coming into the exit?
Yeah, so one of the things we started focus on from early days is just know your figures. That's super important, because money drains very easily in this type of business. If you don't have control over it, you have returns, you have advertising costs. There's so many different cost types, and if you're not in control, you never know until the end, like where is it going? So that is really, really important. For us, but also for an aggregator, of course.
By detailed growth plan, do you mean at the time of exit you have a good growth plan to show to the buyer?
Yeah, so obviously valuation is based on history, but ideally any aggregator wants to see a detailed growth plan. Basically, what is this business going to bring me in the next 2 years? Well, you either have the option to let them find out, or if you want to get the best valuation, you help them, and you get a very detailed growth plan of what the business is going to look like in the next couple of years, according to you. Yeah, so I'd say, you know, put a lot of effort in that, definitely.
Okay, excellent. So let's look ahead then to performance since the exit. You must be happy with trending at 60% for this year.
Yeah, definitely.
Which Amazon marketplaces are you on today? I see you're launching in the States, but where are you today?
Yeah, so we're on all the EU marketplaces.
Okay.
So the Pan EU, UK, and then there's well, we have the separate marketplace, which is bol.com in the Netherlands, which is about 30% of our revenue.
Okay, and is your US accounting for the majority of your uplift in 2022 in your forecasting?
No, not really. No, it's a small part, but there's loads of other things. There's other marketplaces. There's also new products. There's an uplift in content, you know, which are basically all the reasons which made us sell the business, because we were financially restrained because we were growing very fast, and basically all our resources were needed, especially in times of money to buy stock for our UK and EU business. So we never had the opportunity to move to the US, and now, you know, being in a part of Dwarfs makes that possible. Yeah, and also, yeah, the support they can offer you in terms of the content team, etc. You know, these were all kind of things that we didn't have.
Yeah. So you were obviously quite a big business before the exit. How many people had you grown to, Ludolf?
8.
8 people. Okay, interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's look ahead. What were your key pieces of advice for the audience? I like the first one. Think about what do you want from a potential deal. I'm going to ask this straight back to you. What did you want from your deal?
Yeah, well, I kind of gave it away early days. Yeah. So, one of the major things is that when I didn't want to stop, you know, and you know, there were several offers on the table, especially from the really big ones that, okay, stay on board for 3 months and then, we'll take it from there. And you know, I'm not that old yet, so I have no idea what I wanted to do, and I really love this business, so I really wanted to continue working in the business, and also, as I said earlier, you know, I really wanted to have the team together, because in the end that makes it possible for us to grow the business. And so I think that was an important thing, and we were very clear from the start to all the aggregators we talked to with what we wanted, and
good advice. Final question, Ludolf. Your second point: understand the challenges of a DD process. What was the sort of the biggest challenge that you encountered and that you'd advise sellers to prepare for?
Yeah, well, beside the things that you know we said before, you know, get a good support team in terms of legal and financial advisors. But I think the thing that we underestimated is basically the time it takes to do this process properly, especially, you know, while you're still running the business. It's basically 2 jobs at once. It's really a lot of work.
Yeah.
And frustrating sometimes, you know, getting more and more questions. So prepare
Brilliant.
for that.
Well, Ludolf, thank you so much for dialing in today. Congrats.
Thanks for having me.
Great business. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.
Excellent. Thank you, Ludolf. Okay. So seller number 4, we're going to move to from the Netherlands to the UK. I'll invite Frankie to the floor. Frankie, you there?
Right here, boss.
Hello, good evening. Please introduce yourself and your brand, Frankie.
Hi, everybody. Hello to the future millionaires out there listening. Well done for joining us. So I started a sportswear brand called TCA in 2012. So very, very early days, earlier than probably everybody else on the call. And TCA was performance sportswear, or is performance sportswear. So we worked with professional athletes and tried to create the highest quality performance products that we could, and that was our USP, was that they were athlete approved. Yeah, grew the business for quite a long time before exiting. Emma, you're on mute, I think.
Apologies. I've got to stay on my toes for 10 interviews. I mean, you had an unusual high amount of SKUs. Generally, the buyers look for low SKU count, but it's great to see a firm like yours with SKUs in the thousands get a great deal done. Could you give some context and color to that, please?
Yeah, it's something that I obviously only discovered in the process, was that people considered us to have a large number of SKUs. And I think that two things I took from it was, number one was, I understand why people don't want a business with too many SKUs, because it is complex and it does create more work and it diffuses your focus across different products. But the other side of the coin is that it allowed us to grow a much bigger business than we otherwise would have. And the reason there's so many SKUs is basically because they're all variations. So because it's apparel, there's different colors and different sizes, and that's what made up the bulk of the SKUs. I think in terms of like a parent product is an individual, pair of shorts or a t-shirt. There wasn't that many. I don't know how many it was in the end, maybe 100 or something. But the variations was a huge USP for us, actually. Customers like to see variations, and there's a lot of data to show, and this is not just from our business, but from other bigger and more traditional retailers as well, is that when customers can see choice, they buy the same things more often, even if it's not the extra choices that you're offering them. So people like to see choice. They're drawn in by choice. They like to see options and colors. So I think it really helped us.
Good to hear. Good to hear. If we move to the next slide, I think you're the fourth speaker, 4 in a row, has talked about margin. Again, I'm assuming you're net margins. This is a massive takeaway from this webinar, and something we'll discuss with the panelists after the seller interviews. But again, on your margin, looking back, what would you have done differently, Frankie? Where were you at exit? Would you have tried to plan the trajectory of margin differently?
Yeah, well, the way I started the business was I literally couldn't calculate a margin until, I probably still can't. I worked it out, like, I buy something for £2, I sell it for £12, all my costs come out, I make £4. If I sell 100 of them, I make £400, blah, blah, blah. That's how I did it. I did it pounds and pence, which in some ways seems more sensible, because at the end of the day, cash is reality, like they say. But it's not how everybody works. And there is obviously downsides to that as well, because if you don't control the other things, you can end up working for, very little money. So yeah, I learned that lesson near the end. And the good news was, near the end, is that we did have good margins, but they weren't as good as they could have been, for sure. And if I'd known it earlier, then obviously I would have built the business a bit like, I think as Anthony was saying earlier, don't kind of dilute your margin with poor margin products and just try to expand the high margin products. So it completely changed my way of thinking. So if people are going to exit in the next 6 to 12 or 18 months, that's something they should definitely start thinking about now, is protecting that margin. Yeah,
agreed. Specific examples on how you'd increase brand value if you were to go back and do it again?
Well, again, I think it's Anthony. I hope I'm not getting his name wrong, but he was talking about brand. Ashley, yeah, I knew it was. Sorry. He's spot on. Like, honestly, the word brand is just being thrown around from pillar to post and has basically become meaningless. A brand is an intangible asset. Coca-Cola is a brand. If Coca-Cola lost the recipe tomorrow, the company would survive because it's all the values in the brand. It's an intangible thing. Whereas if everybody woke up tomorrow and forgot what Coca-Cola is, the company will be worthless. So it's not about the products, it's about people's perceptions. And that's why it's such a sticky issue to get your head around. But the brand is the perception of the customers. I think Bezos says it's what people say about you when you're not in the room. There's indicators of a brand, when those are the things you're ultimately going to be measuring if you try and increase that value. So repeat purchase rate was one thing that we had a huge advantage that proved our brand value. Our repeat purchase rate was 25%, which I think is extremely high. The other indicators you'd have is sort of like Google searches, social media following, email database, and so on.
Okay, excellent. Okay, let's move to performance since acquisition. I assume you're delighted with this performance, 43% year on year into 2022.
Well, I didn't think they were going to do better than me, I have to say, but seems like they got some good people over there.
They clearly do. They clearly do. Why is Italy going so well?
Well, I don't know what they're doing that's so great, but I do know that when we handed over the business, Italy had not been given the attention it deserved. So, sounds like a simple thing, but highlight opportunities and put your resources behind them. And, Sellerx obviously they're bringing a whole lot of resources to the table that we didn't have within the business. And I think it can be as simple as that, is we maybe knew in the back of our minds Italy was an opportunity, but we didn't have the time or the resources to go after it. Now, since we hand the business over, we told them that, and they've just gone and put some rocket fuel behind it, and they start to see the results. And I think they're even surpassing what they thought could be done.
Good. And Daniel from Sellerx will be on the panel later. We can discuss performance. Okay, final question for you, Frankie, is how would you now having done an exit, how would you go about finding out about valuation calculations if you were to do it again?
Well, I think that the people who are giving out the valuations, i.e. the aggregators or the acquirers or the buyers, are very accessible. And you can just come onto a webinar like today and listen to them and ask them. And I did that when we were exiting, but the industry was very much more immature at the time. So I had to work quite hard to search out buyers and people who had done deals. And that's what I use as my benchmark for valuations. But these days, I don't think it's that hard to find the data because everybody's hunting for the deals.
Yeah, and of course, to give a plug for Fortia, we can help entrepreneurs think about valuation as well.
And I would say as well, it's not on here, but choosing who you accept an LOI from should be a tip here. There are aggregators out there that want to close deals. Sellerx is one of them. They want to close deals. They don't want to mess sellers around. So, do your due diligence on the buyers as well. Make sure you pick a good one, because they make your life very easy.
Yeah, it's a good point. As much as the buyers are interviewing the sellers, it's a two-way process. The seller should be interviewing the buyers. Totally agree with that. Frankie, great to see you again. Thanks for your time.
Welcome.
Yeah, have a nice evening.
Cheers, man.
Excellent. Now we will invite Nicola to the floor. Nicola, are you there, please?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. So we go from the UK over to Italy. Nicola, please introduce yourself and your brand.
Yeah, so I'm Nicola Faccini. I am Italian, and my brand is Nature Supplies. I started it in 2018. I was initially focusing on other kinds of products coming from my previous experience as a product manager in the pillows and mattresses business. But I saw this great opportunity for entering something that was a bit of more of a passion of mine into the design world. So I decided to design my own products made out of wood for home decor purpose. I found a supplier in China. I even went to visit him, the very first one. Then I decided to change after the very first visit. And it was very good. It was very good business. I started it as in parallel to what was my full-time job. Then I decided to focus 100% on it. And then COVID arrived, the business boomed. I was continuously launching new products. And then I came across the very first couple of first aggregators, and I came into entering the selling mindset that started to make me also think differently on how to continue the business onwards. And so that's pretty much it.
Very good. And why did you choose Yaba, Nicola?
So basically, I was in this mood. We will get back to it after. Also, I was launching several products. I probably diluted my resources, physically and work-wise, and launching several products. And I was seeing a very long time ahead before I could really say that for reaching the kind of revenue and profit that I had in mind for selling. Mm-hmm. So I was really not into the let's say the immediate sale mode. I was thinking of selling in 1 year and a half. So actually, the very first approaches I had from aggregator, we didn't really find a deal because I was not in that very moment really willing to sell. I was willing to find something that could leave in more room for profit sharing in the future. And with Yaba, we had a very, very good feeling. We had a very good, I had a very good personal feeling about them and the way they approached me, and the fact that we were able to, I was able to have a very huge exposure to the future of the growth of the brand, since that was the basically main reason.
Okay, and very quickly, you say the words multiple reevaluation. That's quite unusual in a deal terms. Can you just explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, so what we do is basically we go and see, reevaluate what has been the growth of the brand, and we try to put a multiple on that instead of just being a percentage, a plain percentage of the growth that happens while after the brand acquisition. Okay.
Great. Let's move on. So again, if I got this right, yeah, so the supply chain, you know, what more could you do to guarantee? Guarantee sounds very strong, but like, yeah, what would you do differently looking back?
Well, looking back, I was really willing to expand the products probably beyond the stretch of a one-man show business, because I did it all myself. So I was diluting my, let's say, my resources and a little bit too much into making too many products and not really focusing on the key ones that every time they touch the ground on the Amazon, in Amazon, they were selling much more than expected. So the supply chain I was able to put up was not able to stay up to with the rhythm of sales that the products were having. Yeah. So that was one of the things that I would have done differently for sure. Try to avoid stockouts and improve that part of the business.
Okay. Since the acquisition, the monthly revenue has increased significantly. If you were to try and summarize it down to two things, two drivers, what would they be, Nicola?
Improving the conversion, especially in Europe, because I was not, it was not really my focus. So I was just going with the flow and getting sales where they were happening in Europe according to the country. I was not really looking into how to maximize the conversion in the whole Europe. So there's been a lot of work that has helped the business to grow in that sense, or increasing conversion rates across all the countries, Europe. And definitely PPC, the strategy was I was having a lot more focus than what I could bring to it. And yeah, and last but not least, this, of course, a big cash inflow that was guaranteeing this supply chain and this presence of all these products that I previously launched and tested in the different markets, and seeing that the daily sales velocity were good, but I was not able to keep up with them. Now we can. So that's seeing the thing come true now in the Yaba hands.
Okay, very good. And looking forward, I think your number one piece of advice is very similar, if not the same, to Frankie's from TCA, which is good to see. Two entrepreneurs saying the same thing. Could you expand on your second point? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss this when they go to market.
Yeah. So my second point is basically do not be afraid of betting on the aggregator, of betting with them, of jumping on board with them on the future of the brand, and because the growth is there. It's sometimes at the beginning, I was talking to other sellers, they are afraid that the aggregator is not going to grow your brand, is probably going to have not such deep pockets, but it's totally the other way around. They want to grow the brand even more than you want it. So it's something that sellers should leverage more, in my opinion, and try to ride that the aggregator wants the brand to grow, not just to keep it where you brought it to.
You're in a unique position in that the fact you were a seller and now you're actually working for a buyer, for an aggregator.
Yeah.
What sort of surprised you now that you're inside the tent of an aggregator? What surprised you that you didn't expect?
What's surprising me? Well, the kind of people that the Yaba has been hiring. Honestly, the kind of Everybody's quite top-notch players, A players, really with a lot of commitment that I was not expecting in such a company before joining it. And the kind of quality of the employees is really high. People coming from different kind of industries, and bringing in some Amazon experts, bringing in ex-Amazons. So the kind of level of people is really what's been striking me the most, and it's a guarantee for good work. That's a great thing that I discovered mainly afterwards, of course. Before I was just getting in touch with the M&A and some operations people. Now I joined the whole team, and it's a really nice ambient and atmosphere work-wise.
Brilliant. Well, congrats on your exit, and
thank you.
Look forward to continuing to develop a relationship with you whilst at Yaba. Thanks for dialing in today from Italy. Cheers, Nicola.
Cheers.
Okay, we're going to go from Southern Europe to Northern Europe, please. Juha, are you there?
Yes. Hello, Emmett.
Hi. Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. Greeting from South Finland.
South Finland. Very good. Very good. Please kick off by introducing yourself and your brand.
Yeah, there's a nice bridge now that it's winter over here in Finland. So I'll tell you about it in a minute. So my name is Juha. I'm the other founder of Indo. We founded the brand with my brother 2018. And if you look at the picture that we have on the slide, there's this young chap jumping on the trampoline. That's the product. So that's something we actually built 2018. All started here in Finland during the winter time. This same guy actually, he's a stunt scooter fanatic, and he just couldn't go outdoors, and he started to build an indoor trick scooter. So I think he was 8 or 9 at that time, and we'll build a few versions in my garage with my son. So he's my son, and we showed that to my brother, and he's been working for big brands like Kone and Fiskars and so on. So he just said immediately, why don't we make a real product out of this? And it took a bit time. We applied for a patent, and we set up the supply chain, and then things just moved on. We took some of these products to local trampoline parks, and then retailers started to ask for them. Suddenly there was business. We did it because we just loved that. So there was nothing else at that point, and it was crazy. A lot of people doubting that. And, well, we ended up distributors asking these products and so on, and now we are here.
Excellent.
That's the story.
The net margins are amazing. Have they always been that good, or how are they so good?
Well, yeah, they've been good. I think my brother made quite good decisions when he designed the product. So it's super small, ships very cheaply, and I think also the other aspect which I have in the coming decks is that this is a novelty product, so it was actually hard to price correctly. It was a headache for us at the time, but there's no really competition, I think, even today. So we have quite strong IPR. Okay. I think that's why it is what it is.
And why did you partner with eBrands?
Oh yeah, we hired 2 guys. One guy to work on the finance and legal and try to find the eBrands, and the other guy was working on our social media videos and stuff and so on. So we ended up doing pretty much everything on our own. So I would say we had maybe like what's not invented here issue, if you know what I mean. So
Okay.
We kind of had to make selection whether we start to really scale non-core stuff, build all kind of functions, and we could have lost the competitive advantage. And we needed a partner who knows Amazon well. We didn't know much about it. That we actually started the B2B stuff before we went to Amazon. That's our story.
Okay. And you looking back, your advice on the slide to increase valuation is to outsource more core business functions. Why do e-commerce entrepreneurs not outsource more tasks? What are your thoughts?
I'm not quite sure what you mean, but I think the idea behind this is that, like, we try to do all kind of stuff on our own, even bookkeeping and everything. So the more you have time to work on the core stuff, the faster it takes you ahead, and you can turn the ship.
Yeah,
that's what it basically means. But it's just sometimes hard. So my advice is that stop at some point, think for a moment, look around and see what's around. There's probably at some point a good time that you need to find your own e-branch.
Yeah.
To help out.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. Performance of the brand, 150% is clearly amazing. Over what time period is that?
Yeah, that's funny. It's like, I would say, less than a half a year. So as said, we were not like super good on Amazon, and we purchased some contractors to help out, but I think it requires something else. So partnering with eBrands has shown that I think these guys know what they do on Amazon, and it's really helped out where we needed that help, because we've been doing the B2B part. As you saw, the most of the revenue comes from that, even still today. So
what's an example of a new B2B distribution agreement? What type of firm?
We have actually made, I think, quite a few. Australia, Finland. That's a very good question. Me or my brother, we don't have like sales backgrounds. I'm actually software contractor and public cloud contractor. That's what I've been doing 20 years plus. Then I ended up doing this kind of business. And you probably want to have some kind of a sales network available if you're considering whether to go with some aggregator or not. So that's where it comes handy. We don't know the big players like big retail chains and so on. For us, it was quite natural to go with the skate and scooter industry, because this is sort of a similar product.
Okay.
But then outside that, we knew that it's not our core competence. So those kind of channels and networks have been like open. They have just opened. Earlier, it was quite difficult to even get the hang of the right people and have a call.
Final question. Your third piece of advice here on the slide. The more you can get your core team, the faster you are with your moves. What do you mean by your core team? How many people is in your core team, and what type of skill sets do they have?
Well, for us, we actually do all the design and everything on our own. So we don't just find a product and stamp it, put our logo on it. So definitely for us, it's been my brother's skill set to be able to design such a product. And then the sales work, you need to have that. Well, with my background, it was quite a challenge, but I handled that and other tasks. But I would say that you need a good product, but you also need to be able to sell it. And also marketing is something that you need to be able to do. It's amazing how Instagram and other similar channels actually work. I've never used Instagram before we started this, and we had to learn it from scratch. And
yeah,
I think that's it, pretty more or less. And well, then there's logistics sides and other, but you can outsource them if you just know what to look for.
Very good. Juha, thank you so much for dialing in from southern Finland. Have a lovely evening.
Yeah, thank you, Ahmet.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thanks.
Okay, so we're going to move from Finland west to Germany. Marc-Andre, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, welcome and good evening. Please start by introducing yourself and your brand.
Yes, my name is Marc. I'm currently in Frankfurt, Germany, as you said. I am 1/3 of Flyweight, our small e-commerce company. Flyweight was founded part-time by me and 2 colleagues, which I met in university. And today is about one of our brands, Montestivo, which is a brand specialized in outdoor toys and gifts for children, such as little binoculars, walkie-talkies, drinking bottles, and so on. And we sold our brand to BBG last year, and now I'm happy to answer your questions. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Yes, thank you. So your net margins are great, 29%. Again, question, were they always that high? Did you try and optimize them ahead of the exit?
Yeah, it depends on the product, but later on, of course, it was quite hard during Corona to keep those margins because of the increased logistic costs. But in the end, we didn't want to compete on pricing point on these marketplaces and keep that good margin. Yeah.
Yeah. Why did you partner with Berlin Brands Group?
With Berlin Brands Group, we partnered because we think they are the best fit for our future. So actually, we didn't want to sell Montestivo at this time, but BBG offered to make plans for the future of the brand together with us, and yeah, let us be still a part of this brand in terms of strategy and so on.
Okay, very good. So your advice to increase valuation, I really like the second comment. Were any of your products not protected, or at this maybe at the start and you had to get them protected?
Of course, we have a brand in the European Union, in Germany, and so on. And Montestivo is also protected in China and the USA. But with patents and registered designs, we mean really, I don't know, patents like, yeah, so something which isn't there yet. So really new product. But in the end, we had, for example, this drinking bottle here with a child-friendly scale, which shows if the child drinks enough, the bear or the other animal gets more and more happy. And this is, yeah, a registered design in Germany, for example.
Okay.
So it can't be copied that easily.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So in terms of performance since acquisition, rolling out to 15 marketplaces is a big success, a big feat. I guess Berlin Brands Group brings unique technology to make that relatively seamless to do.
Oh yes, they do. They are a big company, and we have big, a big network of people where we can talk to, and we are only 3 people, but BBG has this vertical market structure and this horizontal market structure, which allows us to go in all these marketplaces, and they have localization experts and so on, which we didn't have at our time and still don't have.
And which of the marketplaces which marketplace is performing the best so far, out of interest?
Oh, actually, I think BBG has to answer that because the rollout is quite new. But I think it is a Cdiscount in France.
In France, okay, interesting. So of everything listed here, what are the top 1 or 2 drivers of growth since the acquisition?
Yeah, of course, the top driver of our sales is the rollout in those 15 more marketplaces.
Mm-hmm.
And but one thing which is also quite nice. We were a we were a pull marketing company, so we are quite good at Google and PPC on Amazon. But BBG has marketing experts for push marketing, so we are quite excited for these new Amazon stores and these influencer campaigns on TikTok.
Okay, very good. And then looking forward, I mean, the 80-20 rule, I think will come across a few times on this webinar, which I think is great. Did you always adopt that as a principle since you started the business?
No, we didn't. Actually, I think when you search for Flyweight, we have currently 5 registered trademarks, but at the end, Montestivo did 98% of all our sales. So this is why we say, keep your focus. Okay. This is something we learned on the road.
Excellent. I'm a big believer in having technology-led and data-driven businesses. I have another business called Eagle Alpha, which is involved in that. And I think certainly a lot of the leading aggregators are tech-led and data-driven as well. And it's interesting to hear you say that as a brand, you want to be tech-led and data-driven. Can you maybe comment on that, please?
Yeah, sure. For us, technology, robotics, software as a service is kind of natural because we don't come from e-commerce or from children products. Actually, we are 3 software engineers. So when we encounter a problem, our first thought is, can we solve it with software, and can we solve it automated that it scales better than human interaction and human resources.
Well, it's probably one of the reasons why you've got such good margins. I mean, sometimes you hear that, look, Amazon is just it's just a data problem, right? It's a big data game, and the winners are those that are able to be data ninjas. That's sort of a phrase we use a lot here at the Fortia Group. Data ninjas are those that are going to win because they can leverage data the best. Do you think people should do you think sellers should do Python courses and learn how to use data more?
Certainly, yes. Maybe Python is, for the beginning, it's a bit hard, but you can start with Excel, which of course isn't programming, but gather your data together, use Google Analytics, use A/B testing, which is available on Amazon today. So you can A/B test your A+ content, start with your shop, and yeah, try to derive all your decisions from your data, and all will be good in our mind.
Excellent, Mark. Thank you so much for dialing in to this evening.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, take care. Thank you. Excellent. So seven done, 3 to go. We'll move from Germany to the UK. Oliver, are you there, please?
Emmett, how you doing?
I
feel like I'm at the Eurovision Song Contest here with you flying us around Europe.
Well, we're gonna score you out of 10, 10 points in a moment. Welcome, Oliver. Please start by introducing yourself and your brand.
Hi, yeah, I'm Oliver. My brand is called NitIQ. I started in 2016 when I was on a sabbatical in Bali. I was taking some time out, and I met quite a lot of people there who were selling on Amazon, and my background is in consumer insight, and I used to work with clients like Procter & Gamble and Unilever and so on for developing products in conjunction with consumers. So I thought I would put it into practice while I had the time, and I found a niche in the knitting space and started the business and operated it actually from Bali for quite a while, and I sold it very recently in November that last year.
How did you identify knitting as the niche?
Research again. So I mentioned my background is research. So it was, and you were just talking about data there. I wouldn't describe myself as a data ninja necessarily, but I think I suppose my skill set is around using consumer insight and spotting trends and so forth. And so it was largely through trawling a lot of data. This was in the days prior to Helium-10 putting it all on a plate for you. So I had a bit of time at that point, and so I combed through. I basically found a product that was in demand because it was in the top 100, but it wasn't being well served. So, and then I built it out from there.
Okay, very good. So we hear the words margin again, which is great to see. One of the top takeaways. Great to see your COGS comment here. My co-founder David, who's a CFO, accountant, financial expert, he sees this all the time. People don't have a clue about their COGS. People get their net margins wrong generally because they don't include everything, or they get the add backs wrong. But COGS is the other area.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. To be honest, I'm surprised this one's not come up a bit more, because it's something that I think about quite a lot through my experience. I mean, what is a COG? You know, when is a COG not a COG? You know, does it in my case? I overestimated my COGS, and I included a couple of things that shouldn't have. And I think actually, when I was going through the valuation process, I actually probably knocked a few out because of that reason. And this is probably where someone like yourself comes in, by doing a lot of the prep early on. I think it would be very helpful in that. So my advice really, is very much getting a grip on that and being really clear about what it is and what your understanding of it is. And also, I think what the aggregators understand by it as well, because as from my experience, different aggregators measured it a little bit differently. You know, everybody, when asks you for valuation, says give us your COGS, but nobody defines it necessarily. And so I think it's really important to get that right. Yeah,
couldn't agree more. And we have tried to define it in our 90-page exit guide, and there's comments there from aggregators in terms of definition as well. So hopefully that's helpful to sellers. But it's getting the SDE definition right, COGS definition right, is critical as one builds up to an exit. Let me see. When did you start using Sellerboard? Was it pre or post acquisition?
Well, that's another one. I think why I put this in here is because I didn't use Sellerboard prior to starting conversations with the aggregators, and a lot of the European aggregators said, oh, you know, put your data into Sellerboard so we can have a look at it. And I think it's a very good, you know, it's not the only show in town, but it's got a useful tool. And I think if you can kind of get used to using that and seeing what the numbers it comes out of, that would be very useful for any person thinking about exiting, because you can get the same view that is going to be run by a lot of the aggregators, certainly, as I say, the European ones.
Yeah, it's an interesting comment you have made about timing. Did you get this timing right for your own sale in Q4?
I would say no. No, I mean, part of the reason why I sold at the time that I did was because I was very ill,
okay.
And so it was time for me to step away from the business. And unfortunately, that did coincide with a time period when I needed to invest quite heavily in stock for Christmas, and then the subsequent period afterwards to accommodate Chinese New Year.
Yeah,
which also coincides with a period of time when in the knitting industry it goes with the weather. So we didn't have much cash flow during that period. So
okay, understand. Yeah. Very good. We'll move on. So given that your exit was so recent, it's not fair to ask you, our raiser, to discuss performance since the exit, but things are going well overall.
Yeah. I mean, as a lot of people have commented, the resources that the aggregators bring to the table and the expertise that is available within those organisations, whoever they are and whoever people go with, is considerable, and I think that's what the big benefit they bring. So, as people have been talking about, you get a win-win really.
Very good. So let's look forward then. Your key pieces of advice, again, number one really resonates with me. I've said it before on the call, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. This is the one thing that entrepreneurs don't do enough. If you spend 5 years building a business, please spend at least 5 months thinking about an exit, your big payday. You specifically have honed in on, the financial preparation. Can you give more color there, please, Oliver?
Well, it's a little bit similar to what I was talking about with COGS and being clear on that, and making sure that you've got the history there as well, and is readily available to hand. Not that much conversation has been had here around the due diligence process. One person did discuss it, but it's hard, and it's time consuming, and it's long, and it's very involved, and there's an awful lot of questions and an awful lot of data that you need to give and provide. And even if you think that you've got everything in great working order, you probably haven't. And again, this is probably where people like yourself come in very handy, because they'll get all of that ready in advance. And I do think that all of that stuff, that preparation that you can do beforehand, will make your life so much easier when you go through that process, that you're not having to, because as has been discussed, it's like another job. So if you can kind of take some of the work out of that up front and just make sure that you're on the front foot, then I think that's critical, really.
Yeah. Excellent. Oliver, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and have a lovely night.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye. Excellent. So now we'll, I think, move across the Atlantic to the US, and we'll welcome Sheila. Are you there, Sheila?
Yes, I am. Thanks for having me.
Hi there. Good afternoon to you. Please introduce yourself and your brand.
My name is Sheila Dradis. Our brand is Luna Bean. I'll see if I can get the video going here also. I'm actually traveling, so bear with me here.
Sure.
And like your first panelist, I actually was a biomedical engineer and a mom. I'm sorry, let me see if I can get this going.
Sure, take your time.
I'm not sure what is happening with it, but anyway, I'm sorry about that.
No problem. Keep going.
So I started out, I was a biomedical engineer. I was a mom that was going to have her second child and needed to step back and take a break, and started this as a hobby.
Okay.
Way back in 2007. Took a few years to figure out that I was going to keep doing it and to learn what to do business-wise.
Yeah, and yeah, 14 years. It's good going. Did you start off on Amazon or Shopify?
Actually, eBay. Back in 2007, I don't recall for sure, but I don't think Amazon was as much into products other than books back then. And a website with, this is a way throwback, PayPal buttons. We were started a long time ago.
This is going back a while, yeah. I actually did a master's in e-commerce in 1999. God forbid. But your margins are awesome. 33% net margins. Can you talk us through that? What sort of prices are you selling for? And so
sure. I don't have a business, or did not have a business background, so setting the price was difficult. It moved around a lot for our various products. But a lot of the profit margin on our end is that we had very low overhead. We are one of the ones that you hear about that started out of a garage, moved into a building on our own property, and so forth. In fact, it was still on our own property, an old farm where we were running the manufacturing.
Excellent. And why did you select Goja as your partner?
When looking into, we had a lot of people after us to start with. I didn't care for a lot of the sales pitches. I felt like we would be just another notch in someone's list. Goja was more family oriented and seemed truly interested in the brand, in the backstory and the family part of it. We were a family run business. Okay. And they were interested in my opinion from the get-go and all the way through, not telling me what they were going to do for it and what maybe we were doing wrong, things like that. But it was a joint effort through the transition process.
Excellent. So 80-20 rule has come up a few times today.
Right.
Did you always adopt that approach, the Pareto law, or was it more recently?
More recently, and that's probably what helped us grow at the end, that was part of it, I always thought that we needed more choices, more options. Let's bring in more products, and maybe lost a little bit of focus on those items that were selling the best and keeping those in stock, which I think also seems to have come up a lot today, the out of stocks.
Absolutely. And in terms of delegation, hire more staff. If you're to look back, how many staff would you have had looking back, and what type of skill sets would you have brought on?
We did bring in people to do hands-on assembly and manufacturing, but I, all the way up to the end, thought that I could do everything. We're talking marketing, product development, even copyright issues, branding, all of it. Wow. I can do a little bit of everything, but it got to be way too much and too fast, to the point where I couldn't even probably have put that in place fast enough to keep up.
There's a question from the audience here, Sheila. It's quite a specific niche of a business. Was there
Yes.
well, for you, was there ever any fear that the sort of the addressable market was maybe not growing or too small, and you wanted to?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Definitely, especially in the beginning, before social media really could help us out. Even to this day, there are people that have no idea when I try to describe what this is. Unless they've seen it somewhere, they have no idea what it is.
Well, while you're here, give us your 20, 30-second elevator pitch on what it is, please.
Basically, you're going to make a copy of your hands, baby's feet, baby's hands. A couple's hands is probably the most common. It is an exact replica right down to fingerprints. We have had, in fact, forensic students make castings and use them in their class studies. It is so detailed. And the final product is a gypsum or plaster product, but you can fill it with even waxes, resins, things like that. Even chocolate, people have used that for a top of a wedding cake before. Very good.
Very good. Okay. So let's talk about the performance since the exit. What are the key drivers of the 40% revenue growth? If you're to boil it down to, say, 2 key drivers, please.
You'd have to ask go just specifically, but from what I can see, number one, just keeping it in stock and available, and the supply chain going. We had some breaks in the supply chain over the last few years for various reasons. And they have phenomenal teams working on marketing, branding, pay-per-click, all of the above, and especially with Amazon. Their key focus is Amazon.
And did you do any organic search work pre acquisition, or if you did, was it yourself or through an agency?
At the very last year, I did hire an agency that did help. That was just the last year. Otherwise, I relied on a lot of organic searches. When we tried to, I had a hard time finding the right keywords to even target, to be honest. Yeah. Because nobody knew what they didn't know they were looking for this. So it was more anniversary, more generic, more broad, which was tough and expensive.
Well, clearly it looks like the search marketing experts at Goja are doing a great job. Definitely. Okay, so let's look forward. Your advice for the sellers on the call, how would you recommend researching about valuation to other sellers?
Find out how valuations are calculated. What are the driving forces? Of course, we've been hearing about margins throughout this whole thing. I really didn't know. It took me a long time to figure out how that would even come up and the different calculations to do that and what I could do to assist that, which again, going back to margins.
Your third comment there, Sheila, don't wait too long to sell. You built the business over 14 years. Is your comment here about, holding on to your baby for too long, or is it about?
It can be. Yeah. Luckily, we did not hang on too long. We were in a pretty good growth trajectory here at the end. But I think that a lot of people do wait too long. And I had the tendency to keep pushing it. Okay. I'm glad I did not. Okay. I'm glad I did it when we were going to wait another year, another 2, and I don't know if we could have maintained the growth track that we were on ourselves.
Well, Sheila, congrats on building such a great business over a long period of time and having such great net margins and no doubt a great exit. Thank you for dialing in today.
Thank you.
Yep. Take care. Great. So we'll move to our final interview and going to welcome Seth to the floor. And I think Seth has asked Adam potentially from Boosted to also join him. Hi, Adam. Hi, Seth. Seth, please introduce yourself and your brand.
Sure. Is this working? Am I on here?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Awesome.
Good to go.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. My name is Seth. My sister and I started Asteroid Naturals, which is an anti-aging skin serum business. My sister started it when she was trying to find stuff for herself, but her skin is prone to breaking out. And she'd look at the ingredient list and see a million ingredients on these products. And she said, these are just not necessary. And one of these is breaking me out. So she just started minimalizing as much as possible and taking out as much garbage as possible and keeping it just bare bones, simple, minimal product. And then it worked great for her. And then lo and behold, like our neighbors and family started liking it. And she knows my background in business. And she was like, hey, do you think we could sell this? And so that was the beginning. That was the beginning of our business.
So excellent. Nice to meet you, Seth. I think 55% STE margins. I mean, that's off the charts. Please explain, and maybe Adam, please give some context.
My background is like in college, I started buying and selling video games on eBay. And I was actually at one point probably the top seller. My business was like the top one on eBay. So my background is hunting for good prices, just period. Like that's kind of in my bones. And so when it came to sourcing product, that's kind of instinctual to me. So when it comes to like, I mean, and it's just not the same. Like when you're like for bottles, like our bottle suppliers, you genuinely can get 3x difference in terms of costs. Like, so I was constantly hunting for lower cost products. And then the second thing is we grew so fast, and like Sheila, we did it out of our home as well as we were starting, and we were pretty capped on how much we could do. So we started out a little bit lower, but our orders started growing so fast and so quickly, and people really started just loving this product, which is a testament to my sister. She did excellent on the product. So like we didn't advertise almost at all. And when we were raising prices, it was to try to tamp down our total orders. Like we were literally, and we hadn't reached the next phase of like, we're going to stop handcrafting these ourselves and go to manufacturers. And we reached that point where we were like, we're either going to like kill ourselves, or we need to find like, or we need to make the leap to getting a lot more help, or we need to sell it to somebody we trust that can do that for and do it well. And that's where we landed with Boosted.
Fascinating. I mean, incredible margins. Huge congratulations. So if we look at your advice, it's interesting. You're clearly good at supply chain and finding low cost suppliers, but then it surprised me that your first piece of advice is create additional supply chain capacity. Please, can you explain that more?
Yeah, that was in large part our greatest bottleneck is just is fulfilling orders and getting enough product made. And we just didn't trust outside. I mean, maybe we're slightly paranoid. We wanted the quality to remain exceptional always, to be the very best. And I didn't want any cut. We didn't want any corners cut, anything like that. And so like at one point we tried using some machines, I remember, and that were supposed to be able to do this well, but then we found traces of grease in the product. And we were like, oh my gosh, like, and so we scratched and we're like, we're going to stay hands made forever. We're never going to change anything. We're going to keep doing it the exact same way. We just needed it to maintain the same quality if it was going to expand. Yeah. But we just didn't do that. So, I mean, it was obviously unrealistic to keep doing this in our basement at the rate we were growing. So if we could have solved that ourselves, I'm sure that would have worked well in our favor, but that's where Boosted came in, because they did an excellent job at vetting out different manufacturers and really testing the products and making sure they could get it exactly as perfect as we wanted it. And that brought us a lot of confidence. And I mean, they're very super skilled at doing that element, which was very important to us.
Well, that's a good
Yeah,
segue.
it's an incredible testament to Seth and Angela, what they were able to build literally in their own basement. Seth's brother-in-law was doing the testing by hand and checking it on his wrist, and they were able to grow it to an 8 or a 7-figure business, excuse me. So amazing. I think where Boosted was able to come in and support, as Seth is saying, we saw those 55% margins, and as we thought about kind of the scale and getting this to more of a professional supply chain, actually underwrote those margins coming down a little bit. You know, we'll take 40% margins any day, as we've talked about, and try to help increase that growth. So that's part of the process of what we're going through at the moment. We do have a fairly substantial beauty portfolio, which I think is part of what Seth and Boosted kind of got along from the beginning, and saw, you know, we do treat our brands as if they are individual success and kind of give them the TLC they need to help there. So still working through it. I think the supply chain side of things is there, but there's still some more optimization to be had, and it continues to, you know, to grow thanks to the TLC that Seth and Angela gave it prior to our ownership.
Excellent, excellent. Let's see, comments about performance since acquisition. Q4 clearly was great year on year. So as you sort, as you further improve your supply chain this year, you'll be able to take on more demand. The demand is clearly sitting there. You just need to optimize the supply chain to accommodate the demand. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think we have, you know, Seth had mentioned he didn't need to do much marketing because of supply chain constraints. We are starting to open up the marketing funnel a bit, but there's still more room to do so, which was one of our kind of levers to continue to scale. So that hasn't been fully optimized until we're ready to kind of, you know, do the full grown attack. So there is more room. I think 35% is a kind of a base case, you know, with room to continue to grow beyond that, as we, you know, push this into further marketplaces, further the product line, and continue to kind of push that forward.
Yeah. I mean, if I can interject real quick, one thing Adam's not saying that I think he's being humble about too is when they took it over from us, we weren't just an easy, like turnkey type business for them just to take over, because we were doing things literally ourselves. So like part of the process, and Adam's team, Boosted goes so quickly with their teams, and they met all their dates. I mean, we were trying to sell this in 2019 with another business, and they kept pushing their dates forward and forward and forward. Like, oh, next month. And they kept like nickel and diming, oh, we're gonna change this. And then the COVID market crash happened, and they said, actually, we don't have money ready anyway. And I was like, this is a nightmare. I'm never selling this. I'm keeping this myself. But like Boosted hit them and went really quick and hit every single date. Okay. And then afterwards, we had to keep manufacturing because they were working at getting things in place. So we did some manufacturing, some transition period for them. So like really, for only barely have they been able to start opening floodgates in general, because we've been saying, you guys, you still can't make this go faster than we can go. So we were pretty constrained with them for a long time too. So I mean, a lot of that growth is just from optimization. I don't even think they've even really started on what they can do, which is amazing. So we're excited to see that.
Final question to you, Seth. You mentioned here all about trusting your gut. Data is clearly important, but trusting your gut is important. Can you give an example where trusting your gut led to the right outcome?
Like in my life in general, or in this sale? At
the sale, the brands.
Yeah, like I was saying with the prior interested parties, I got the feeling that they were trying to. I don't know, a nice way of saying, I mean, not too mean. I didn't have the right feeling with them at all. Okay. And again, as they were not, I didn't feel like I could trust them as well as nearly like Boosted. When I started talking with Boosted, very quickly I realized they were really competent. They had individual teams. Like when I found out they had a whole transition team ready to help transition the Amazon site over, that's their only function. Because that was one of my fear bottlenecks, that something's going to be messed up in the transition, and we're all Amazon based. But like talking through them, I just very quickly, here's an example. Like I remember kind of discussing the deals, and they were talking about my inventory on Amazon. And I said, oh, you guys can just keep that like inventory. Like, I don't need to worry about that. And they were like, no, we'll make sure to pay you your costs on that. Like, they were fighting to make sure the deal was fair. And in the contract, I remember saying that things felt very evenly weighed and balanced, which the other ones weren't at that point. So I just got the feeling they were trying to treat me as part of their team, which I appreciated so much, because I knew that this is going to not be just an immediate process. I'm going to be working them for a long time and stuff. So I really did have a good feeling that they were on my team and they had my interest in heart as well as their own. And that has proved to be a very good decision that I made.
Well, huge congrats to you and your sister for building such a high net margin business. Fantastic to see. And thank you for taking the time out today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Excellent. So that brings us to the end of the 10 seller interviews. And now, apologies, I do need to keep my screen sharing. Sorry, 1 second. Can I invite the panelists, please, to turn on their cameras? So we have 20 minutes or so to digest all of that. There's definitely some common themes, which people have no doubt have picked up on. Can I ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves, going from left to right? So starting with Arnau, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Arnau. I'm an acquisition director at Berlin-Bruns Group. I've been with the group for the last 4 years, and I started my career in asset management in Geneva.
Thank you, Arnau. Jesse, I'm sorry, Alex. Are you there, Alex?
Yep, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm a VP of acquisitions at Branded here, based in New York. Previously, a long career in investment banking, working with founders of high growth consumer products businesses to advise on M&A and capital raising work, and have been at Branded for about 7 months now, working in M&A.
Thank you, Alex. Daniel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel. I work in the investment team at Sellerx here in London. I mean, similar to a lot of the people here, my background is in finance. I worked at Citi in banking, but also similar to the first half of the call. I also used to be an Amazon seller, and I also sold my business. So yeah, happy to discuss and connect with everyone.
Thank you. And Jesse?
Hey, everybody. Jesse Holm, head of partnerships for AccuCo. I've spent 5 or 6 years consulting for large Amazon businesses. And similar to Daniel, I've also been an Amazon seller myself. I've been with AccuCo for almost a year.
Great. Well, welcome, everybody. Thank you for participating as panelists. There's obviously a lot of content there, over an hour and a half of content. Let's break it down by sort of each of the sections that we asked the sellers to discuss. So first being, their own exit. What do you think are some of the common traits of the 10 entrepreneurs that we saw and heard from today? Who'd like to go first?
I think it's pretty obvious. They're all. I mean, of course, like there's a big focus in growth and margins, right? But what I was very happy to also hear is that basically the focus in brand equity, right, and building long-lasting products. So that's a common trait that I found, that they were really all eager, rather than being SKU opportunistic, in building something more, right, and listen to the customer, engage with the customer, right, and I found that was very refreshing.
Great. I can go next, just sticking to the order that we introduced ourselves. I think one thing that really stood out to me was that we had, a bunch of really, really passionate founders on the call today. It's folks that really poured their blood, sweat, and tears into building these businesses. And in many cases, they really weighed and kind of struggled with the decision of whether selling was even the right move. But then a consistent theme, of course, given these discussions and really what we see from so many entrepreneurs that we speak to at Branded day to day, is that they realize they took their businesses to a certain point, and they do kind of see the value of being able to accelerate that further through a partnership, while also getting a chance to de-risk their exposure a bit, taking some of the chips off the table. And so whether that's helping them to scale their businesses on Amazon, or launching their products on international marketplaces, or especially growing into off Amazon channels, they clearly see the value in kind of partnering, right, and sharing some of that upside And we got to hear some really great success stories here today. And I think it really is a common theme, across the ecosystem that we see.
Agreed, Alex. Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, the problem of going third now is Arnau and Alex have already said all the good ones I was thinking of saying. But yeah, no, margins, growth, passion. I mean, I think the other thing also to Alex's last point, I think what was quite interesting is sort of how each one had like a bit of a different story and how important it was for them to find sort of the right partner for them. And I think that was really interesting to see. I mean, for example, the Yaba case about how he wanted something and it was particularly for that space, or different ones that have like different things. So I thought that was really refreshing, that like it feels like each seller's story is different, but there's also like a different aggregator for each one.
Jesse, this is the tough spot. We'll flip it the other way for the next question. Any additional?
Wonderful. And I'll say thank you, Emmett. This is a great forum here, and it really has been such a pleasure to listen to all these different stories. And as Daniel mentioned, as past Amazon sellers, just commiserating with all the things that we would have done differently if we could do it again. So thank you for sharing all those and bringing me back as well. Yeah, it's really great to see that people are still invested in their brand equity and what's happening post-acquisition. I love that too, and really understanding the brand and almost surname they built in their product and where they want it to go. I think one of the common themes I heard was when the right time to sell your business is. And the only thing I would note on that, everyone had great points. I think it's different for everybody, right? I think it might have been Oliver who mentioned at the peak, and absolutely, maybe peak of cash flow too. I think there's a great point as well, making sure that you're in the right place when you sell. There's also the other side of the story for some groups too, in a space where maybe the peak problem is you've gone to a point past where a certain aggregator might fit. For example, if you've reached top of class on Amazon and that group's not expanding into other channels, that could also affect what the payout is for somebody who does due diligence, specifically looking at that. I heard holding on to a brand too long as well too, and when the right time is. And the only thing that I can mention is, the right time is the right time for everyone separately. In a group like Fortia, no matter where you're at in that, I guess, stage in your sales process, can help you understand who the best partner is and how to get the most out of it. So whatever feels right is right.
Excellent. So let's start with you, Jesse, on the next topic. So valuation, was clearly discussed several times. What pieces of advice from the successful sellers resonated with you?
Yeah, I think a lot of talk around margins, and there were such impressive businesses with great margins here. The only thing that I would add to that and expand on, and I think a lot of people were mentioning it slightly, is absolutely keeping an eye on your margins, both current and what they look like in the future. But for somebody who's starting a business brand new, you might come in and have to understand that margin is going to be much lower towards a point of growth later on in the future. And as long as you understand your financials and how you can get there and what that margin will be, making sure that, again, too, your business, and it's all right not to have the largest margin as you start, as long as you see a clear path to healthy business.
Very good. Alex, like me, a former banker, you've been looking at margins for far too long. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll go a different way. Obviously, margins are important. Growth is important. All the financial metrics are really critical. But kind of thinking about it from a more qualitative perspective too, I think some of the themes I heard emerge was building something really kind of truly unique and different with the brands and the products. I mean, there's certainly something to be said for a larger view moat and strong product ratings. But ultimately, those are kind of table stakes. And if it's a super commoditized product, that kind of stuff will only get you so far. And then if it's easy, to just knock off and create a Me Too copycat, there's going to be a natural kind of ceiling on valuation. So having something kind of truly ownable, right? And whether that's through some kind of really defensible IP or patents, or via, kind of brand building, with a capital B, right? So creating some kind of fostering a real community around the products with a really engaged and passionate following can do a lot to drive a super premium outcome.
Daniel, Arnau?
Go ahead, Daniel. I was first before.
Yeah, no, I mean, similarly to what I say, I think something that I thought was particularly interesting were all these stories about people putting a lot of focus also on future value of the brand. So I mean, sometimes we see people that like discounts of what aggregators can do and have a focus on the upfront payment. But then, I mean, I think it was really refreshing to hear a lot of sellers just say how much they've enjoyed sort of either continue working or also seeing the growth benefit and also get some of the benefit in terms of deal structures where they share some of the upside of the brand.
Agreed. Arnau, to finish.
Yeah, what I also really liked, exactly, and I'm going a little bit the same way as Alex here, is that basically this willing in creating long-lasting products, right, where we create like multiple families, that we can create variations, and we have like this emotional relationship with the customers. How all the founders we've seen, they're trying to engage with them, starting with reviewing the reviews on Amazon, but also creating content right outside Amazon using Google, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. And of course, I think I heard at the beginning, the relationship with suppliers, that's also very important, right? They're a key partner for development. Sometimes we have great brands that we see, but the supply, basically like the production, is not scalable. And in that regard, I always a big fan of these founders that understand how important the suppliers will be, not only coming with developing new ideas, but also for on the buying side, that gives this confidence, right? That not only they will be there to support growth, but also bringing ideas on creating a product family.
Yeah, lots of great points there. Thank you. So then we move to performance of the brands post-acquisition, a sensitive topic for many in our industry. We spoke to a journalist recently, and their motto when they think about aggregators is aggregator death watch, which is a terrible, terrible term. And I think a lot of press just expect a lot of aggregators to go bust, and maybe a small number will, but there's 91 Amazon aggregators in our database, and we speak to a lot of really smart folks, and I think a lot of them are doing great work. So that was one of the drivers for today's webinar, was to showcase that these brands are performing well, and it's a proxy, right? We don't actually obviously have data on all brands and all performance, and it's a portfolio play for the aggregators. But what are your thoughts on some of the stats you saw in terms of uplift post acquisition, and maybe transparency for the industry as a whole? Maybe if we start with Arnau here first.
Yeah. So first of all, when we approach acquisitions, we're trying to be selective in the sense of the synergies we can bring, right? Making sure that we have the confidence that we can grow with channel expansion, geography expansion, but also with product expansion, right? And that our brand managers and product managers understand the industry, because one thing is being an e-commerce operator, right? And be good at PPC, be good at digital marketing and performance marketing. But on the other hand, we need to have like industry experts that understand, right, the niche we're going in. I have to say that, now the industry is also learning, right? I think everything was very high paced. There's been a lot of acquisitions. There's been a gold rush, right? And now we're all have a clear sense on what really works with our operations and what doesn't work, right? And there's going to be a natural selection of buyers going to the specific aggregators where they can actually operate their kind of products, and that will create more solidity, right, in that industry. But so far, what we have seen is that the founders are incredibly good at creating the product, right? They have like this genius idea. They bring this creativity. They really start. They have this passion, and even if it's a one-man show, they're actually very. I'm actually very impressed that they're able to do an amazing job. But I think they will all agree that then to go to the next step, to basically like make it an international brand, there's another skill set that is needed, right? And I think aggregators, when we understand the product, right, and we truly also believe in that brand, then it's a formula that really works.
Very good, thank you, Arnau. Alex.
Yeah, I think Arnau said a lot of it, and look, that maybe there's a bit of a selection bias here, right? Because we all, kind of all collectively aligned on who, who would present today. But I think clearly, there's a lot of common stories that we hear here of performance having improved through the partnership with the aggregators, post-close, post-transaction. And sometimes that focus was more on kind of pulling the levers necessary to accelerate revenue growth. And sometimes, maybe even more of the time, the focus is around, kind of margin enhancement, kind of doing more strategic sourcing initiatives, focusing on marketing spend and COGS and kind of strategic price increases and things to kind of improve overall kind of net profit. But I think overall, the feedback here has been kind of overwhelmingly positive post-transaction. And I think, to your question, Emmett, about transparency, I do think that's something that's really important in the industry more broadly, outside of just more broadly than just performance, right? But in terms of like, who are all these businesses and who owns what, and kind of, we like to showcase a lot of the brands that we own on our website. We know it's becoming more common now. And I think, it's a portfolio we're really proud of. And I think it's important for sellers as they're thinking about their own exits and speaking to various, potential aggregators and other acquirers, that, they have a reference point and even, connect with other founders who have sold their businesses to sort of get that full transparency to hear exactly what levers, did this aggregator pull, and, how has your business done, since you acquired it, and just have a more open and kind of transparent dialogue around it. I think webinars like this are a great, step in that overall direction. But clearly, there's clearly been more positive than negative stories in terms of what we've been hearing in the market post transaction in terms of performance.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're live with a transaction in the moment for a US baby brand called Upward Baby, and there's been a lot of interest, a lot of firms in the data room, a lot of offers. But I think of all the calls the seller has had with the buyer, and there's probably been at least 10 calls, in only 2 instances did the buyer mention that they owned a relevant brand. The rest of the time they said, well, we can't mention the other baby brands that we own, and that just puts them at a massive disadvantage, because if you can showcase a proper case study that's relevant to the baby owner or the pet's owner or whatever it is, pitching, it just makes it a little bit more real. Let's see, Daniel, what are your thoughts on this topic, please?
Yeah, no, I'll go quickly. I mean, in terms of performance, I think there's important to put things also in perspective, in the sense that, like, I mean, most of the aggregators are fairly new. It's a growing and nascent ecosystem. So it's a little bit tricky of, like, if you acquire a new brand and it performs really well, like, how much credit can you actually take for that? Or if it becomes down, like, how much is your fault? And also some of the growth levers, I mean, it's natural that they take longer to execute and everyone's still learning. So I think obviously this was a really great panel, really refreshing to see a lot of great success stories, but it can go either way. And in reality, when you've been managing a brand for a short period of time, it's very difficult to actually measure on how well it's doing or not, and how much of that is an influence of what you're doing versus the natural course of the brand. The other point on transparency, I mean, I agree with what Alex was saying. I think it's definitely the industry is moving to a place where people are more transparent, trying to showcase more of their brands, trying to showcase a lot of the things they're doing. I think it's great, and I think definitely the industry is going that direction. The only sort of point I would flag, I think, most of the aggregators have external investors, have external debt providers. A lot of the times, sellers themselves don't necessarily want to showcase their numbers, showcase what they've gotten for their brands, etc. So there's more than one interest aligned, and I mean, in general, yes, it's obviously great to brag on and show when brands go well, but at the same time, it's not always as clear, because some people might not want to disclose how much money they're making on a specific acquisition.
Yep, all fair points, understood. Jesse, to finish on this topic?
Yeah, and I can be quick here too. And I tip a hat to everybody who's been on this call, and the operation's done a lot of success. And I would say, in many ways, a failure is bad for all of us, and a success is also good for all of us. So the transparency there just builds more trust, especially when we're putting together offers that are dependent on performance pieces as well. So being able to show that success just helps the seller feel more comfortable. The one other thing that I'd mention too is there's slight nuances between all our groups, right? Different areas we focus on maybe for immediate growth, and they might fit different groups better. So the more transparent we can be, it's the easier it makes it for a seller to pick the right group, and then for us to all have success and all move forward. And that's just what I'll finish on with transparency.
Very good. Okay, the last topic then, and we've got 3 minutes, so this is a quick fire round for the panelists. There was a lot of advice given from the successful sellers for future sellers. If each of you could pick one point that really stood out for you, and we'll go back to the normal layout. Arnau, please.
After everything that has been said, I'll come with a new one, but I really liked Marc-Andre with data is your friend. So don't be scared in using data.
Very good. I'm a believer in that as well.
I know you do.
Alex?
Timing and preparation, critical to ensure a successful outcome. You want to sell into positive momentum, so be ready to go, before you decide, okay, now's the right time, have everything in order, have all your facts and figures ready, so that it's just a more efficient and seamless process when you do ultimately pull that trigger.
Totally agree. Fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Big believer of that as well. Daniel?
Yeah, no, mine is easy. I think it was very common across all of them that they said, like, pick Fortia Group as an advisor and sell to Sellerx as a second advice. No, I mean, joking aside, I'd say, like, yeah, basically the point about do also some due diligence on who the buyer is, and make sure you pick the buyer that's right for you.
Yeah, very good. It's all about flirt, date, marry. It's a two-way interview process. Agreed. And to finish, Jesse.
Yep, and I would just say be honest with yourself about your strengths and weaknesses, and in areas where you might not be as strong, find the right help. Areas where you can do more and you feel good, focus on those. And in between, there's plenty of people that can help. Those like Fortia Group, those that can help you with data, those that can help you with PPC. I heard a lot of people mention. So just know where to focus and make sure you spend your time wisely.
So to me, my key takeaway, if in the property world, the key mantra is location, location, location. To me, after tonight, it's net margins, net margins, net margins. Everybody, thank you so much for dialing in. We had 15 speakers, I think, and we had a great audience. The recording and the deck will be sent to you in the coming days. Have a super day. Thanks for your time.